How's it going, everyone? I'm coming to y'all with another knife video, and this time we're looking at a Kershaw. This is the 1301 starter. Now, before I get too deep into this video, I want to say this was not a knife that I went out and bought on its own. I got this in a lot of knives that I bought off of a local knife enthusiast who was, needing some money and had a whole bunch of stuff in that lot that I wanted and a little bit that I didn't. And this is one of the ones that I really didn't want. However, I figured I'll go ahead and knock out a video review on it, and then I'll give it away to a coworker. I've been doing that with a lot of knives that I got from this lot. I'll get them, sharpen them up, test them, review them, and then give them away. And honestly, the people I give them to are very satisfied. It's really only us knife nuts that are so particular about our blades. The majority of people, these knives are amazing because they are so much better than what they can buy at a gas station or picked up at their local flea market for $2 or, whatever junky situation they were in. To a knife nut, this knife is really substandard. But to the everyman, this knife is a high quality, will last their lifetime kind of blade. And I feel like that is really important to keep in mind whenever we're talking about knives. There's a knife for everybody. Just because a knife isn't for you or for me doesn't mean it isn't for Joe down the street or Tammy at work. There's always somebody who could use and appreciate it. That being said, I am not the one for this particular knife, even though it does have a lot going for it. Okay, I actually think this is a really, really comfortable knife in hand. I really do. The ergonomics on here are great. I think the blade shape is spectacular. And I think it's a somewhat handsome looking knife. There's a few issues with it that kind of give it, cheap knife kind of vibes. Mainly that pivot screw is something we usually see in really cheap Chinese knives. And this is a made in China knife, but you guys know what I mean when I say cheap Chinese made knives. And that pocket clip screams generic. Got it in a big OEM sale and slapped it on a bunch of M-Tex and United Cutleries and every other brand that gets produced by the same manufacturers. That kind of feel. It's stuff that, again, only a knife guy would notice. It's purely aesthetic in that sense. But I'll be honest, this is not a terrible knife. It really isn't. There are a lot of pros to it. The cons just happen to be too heavy for me. And weirdly enough, we're going to start with the weight because I said heavy. Let's put this thing on the scale. 6.5 ounces. Okay, let's go ahead and take that over to grams. Wait for that to reset itself. There you go, 185 grams. So this is a very, very heavy knife. And there are some folks who won't mind that. But this thing just weighs the pocket down so damn much. And if I was going to carry and use this, it would be as a work knife, one that I wouldn't care if it got lost or, damaged or whatever. And the problem with that for me is that my work pants are not stiff enough. I'm wearing Dickies to work. And this puts such a weight on the pocket that I would feel it every single second of every single day. If I was wearing blue jeans, maybe. But let's talk about the blade because there are some positives here. Okay, I think the blade shape is very functional. It's a traditional drop point, good amount of belly there, fairly decent tip. If I can get this to focus. Fairly decent tip, very penetrative, would easily puncture into clamshell packaging and all your bubble mailers and everything else that you're using your EDC knife for. Okay, 3.4-inch blade. It's also long enough to be used for the vast majority of everyday carry cutting tasks, as well as a self-defense knife. It is big enough that you could, fairly comfortably defend yourself with it. And the jimping top side gives us a little bit of traction, so we don't lose the knife if, God forbid, we had to use it in that role. So what do I not like about the blade? Simply put, the steel. It's 4CR14 on some versions and 3CR13 on other versions, depending on the production year. Okay? 3CR13 is China's equivalent of 420J2, which is a steel that is not fit to be used on a blade. It's fit for liners. It's not fit for blade steel, in my opinion. I've always gone on rants saying that the average Joe could use 440A or AUS 6 and be completely happy with it for years before they finally dulled it because of how little the everyman uses their pocket knife. I don't have the same feelings on 420J2 and 3CR13. It dulls almost just by looking at it. I mean, opening bubble mailers will dull this thing quickly. God forbid you're cutting zip ties with it, okay, if it's the 3CR13 version. I think the one I have is the 4CR14. It held its edge better than any 3CR13 I've ever used, and 4CR14 is Chinese 420HC. Still not a great steel, still below where I'd like to be in the majority of my knives, but it's right there at the bare minimum of acceptable, I think, for the everyman. The problem is there's no way to tell which one your particular knife is made out of because they all have the same stampings. They'll just give you your model number, made in China, all your patent nonsense. They'll give you the brand, but they won't stamp the blade with the steel. So you have no way of actually knowing which one you've got. Damn it, Kershaw. Also, at least this one does give us the model number on the knife, but I would still like to see the model name on the knife somewhere. I'd like to see starter somewhere on the knife because I think it's really helpful to be able to just look at a knife and say, okay, there's the model number, there's the name. Then you can Google it and do all of your research. I really hate when companies don't do that, but you know what? At least Kershaw put the model number on this one. It is a hollow ground blade, and in my limited cardboard cutting that I did to test the knife, it did perform pretty well. It sliced well. It touched up incredibly easy to a razor's edge. It's just not going to hold that edge for a super long time. Again, for the average person, it'll probably be fine. For the knife nuts, you're not going to like it. Okay, because we like to cut stuff just for fun, just to test our knives and validate our purchases. And this one won't even hold up to that. Not really. The entire knife is black washed, which I'm not super big on black wash. I prefer traditional stone wash, but it's definitely, it's handsome to somebody, I'm sure. That somebody just isn't me. The handles are made out of stainless steel, and that is the reason why this knife is so damn heavy. Again, 6.5 ounces. Stainless steel knife. Not a huge fan. I'm not a big fan of stainless steel handled knives because they do just weigh way too much. You can see there's a whole lot of lint and stuff inside here from the previous owner. Okay, look at all that. But this is it's nasty in there, but it's a good time to show off why pillar construction is a good thing, because you could easily blow that out with compressed air or run some water through it and get all of that cleared right up. So it is going to be, it's going to be very easy to clean. Sorry, I can't speak. By the way, this is a speed safe knife, which means it's spring assisted. Okay. I'm not big on spring assist knives these days. I used to love them when they were new and kind of novel. These days, it's kind of something that I really don't need because a good detent on a manual action knife and you'll deploy, honestly, really fast. Great example of this is an older Kershaw. Here's the Kershaw Nerf, completely manual. Slip out the disc. I don't need a spring. I can get that out absolutely fine. Here's another Kershaw. This one is the Thistle, also a manual action. No spring needed to get that out fast. And if you do want a spring, maybe go for an automatic. That's the Launch 5 Auto. Now, if you want an automatic knife and they're not legal where you live, then spring assist does come into play. And at least here we have both the flipper tab and the thumb studs. There's your design on the thumb studs, by the way. They do protrude enough to get access to them. They're a little slick. I did just slide off of it, but it works just fine. Liner lock design. There is your liner. So you can see your engagement, and also you can kind of see in the pivot point we're writing on Teflon washers. These days, you can get knives that are $10 writing on ball bearings, and this thing is still using Teflon. It works. I'm not going to complain too much. It serves the purpose. I'm just not a big fan of it. Here is a problem, though. Can you hear that? Okay, that is up and down blade play. Side to side, yep, we got a little bit there too. Up and down, it's there. And the reason it's there is because this liner is really cheap. Okay, see if I can show this on camera. I don't know if that's going to show, but we're actually able to flex that steel liner just by putting pressure on the back of the knife. Okay, I'm not even having to wiggle that hard. That is absolutely unacceptable to me, even at the budget price range this comes in at, which I think is between $20 and $30. And I said this in my Camillus Rage review, that at one point in time, getting this for 20 or 30 bucks would have been kind of a mind-boggling experience, but we can do so much better than this in the current day and age of knives. Budget knives have come a long way from being stuff like this, okay? Especially because, okay, maybe you don't mind the blade steel, and maybe you don't mind the Teflon washers and the cheap liner that flexes. And if you don't mind all that, then I guess. But how about the fact that our pocket clip is stuck in right-hand tip-down carry only? We can't position it to a tip-up carry or even to a left-hand carry. It's just right-hand carry in the position that the vast majority of people do not prefer. And again, this comes back to this knife not being made really for us knife enthusiasts. It's made for the everyman who's not going to think about stuff like that whatsoever. And for them, more power to them. But again, if you're watching this video, you're probably a knife nut, a knife enthusiast, a knife guy, a knife girl, and you're looking for something you can actually carry and use, and I just don't really recommend this one all too much. We do have a lanyard hole, which also is currently filled with dust and debris. Look at that, nasty. But again, a lanyard hole is worthless on a knife that is stuck in tip-down carry, because unless you take this clip off, the lanyard will just get buried in the pocket. By the way, the clip tension itself, I will say the tension is superb, and I do like that they did not have a massively flared end to the tip. What do I mean by that? Let me see. I'll grab this 511 Tactical here. That's not flared, but it sticks very high up off the knife. I can get a better example. You know what? Here we go. I'll bring in one of these Ozark Trails. There we go. There's a good example of a clip flare. Okay, so what I mean is, you see how much this is sweeping up off of the handle? That means that this is going to snag on things, catch on your seatbelt, scratch the car next to you, all sorts of stuff that you just do not want. Whereas this will not. So, okay, the clip is very functional. I just wish that, for one, it didn't look so cheap, and for two, that we could position it to at least tip up carry, and I'd like to see it available for lefties too, because we have dual thumb studs and an ambidextrous flipper, but lefties are just kind of out of luck when it comes to actually carrying it. Handle is very slick, obviously, although I do kind of like the pattern. I think that does look somewhat handsome. It's a decent looking knife. I don't think this knife looks bad. I don't think it feels bad. It's very ergonomic. It's just not up to par. You can get so much knife for your money in this day and age that why on earth would you go for this? Okay, let's say this is 20 bucks. Let me go ahead and grab you a couple of knives that are also about 20 bucks that you could easily pick up and have a much better EDC experience with. I don't want to show off the same ones I've shown in every video prior, so I'll just grab, let's see. You know what? These two examples would be enough. 2 examples would be fine. Check this out. This is the Flitza FL2580 in 14C28N steel. Okay, $20 on Amazon. Comes in pink, green, and blue. I went for the pink. I like it. Look at that action. Super smooth action. Locks up like a damn bank vault. And you ready for this? Okay, remember, 6.5 ounce knife. Let's bring the scale back over. Set this over 2 ounces. 2 ounces flat. You could carry 3 of these and it would still be lighter than the Kershaw. All right. Another great example. How about another heavier knife? This is the Schrade SCH-503. Oh, yep. RB, standing for red black. Shorelock. This has been one of my go-to EDC beater knives for a long time, and it's one of my favorite knives to carry. Look how much pocket time it has on it. AUS 8 steel blade. This is made in Taiwan. This one has a little bit of up and down. I mentioned that in its review. Side to side, it's tight. The Shorelock is fun to play with. It's kind of a axis lock, back lock hybrid. The steel will vastly outperform this one. It's a similar heft, even more comfortable in hand, but at least its tip is positioned in right hand tip up. Also doesn't flare. Let's go ahead and weigh it just because. 6.3, so it still manages to be a little bit lighter than the Kershaw. But let me tell you, this thing is a far, far, far better knife in every way over this Kershaw. Discontinued, but you can still find these all the time online for cheap. So my point is that there's just so many knives out there that I would much rather own, I would much rather buy, and I would much rather carry, that the Kershaw starter model 1301 just has no place for me. If you own this knife and you love it and you use it and you carry it every day, rock on. More power to you. I just don't like it. By the way, centering, for anyone who cares, is pretty much perfect. So I'll at least give it credit for that. For me, you know, it might make a decent beater knife for some folks if you like the heft. And it might be a great starter if you're just getting into the hobby. But for me, I think I'd start elsewhere.